Hi guys, in this video we're going to have a look at how to estimate, or sometimes we use a word called approximate. Now, if they give it to you like this, it's not too bad, but sometimes they just hide that word in a lot of written text, so always look out for this word or approximate, and this is what you're going to do. Now, if you don't know how to round to significant figures, especially one significant figure, then stop this video and look that up, and because I'm going to be using it all the time in here. So make sure you understand how to round to one significant figure before you carry on watching. So, to estimate, it's dead simple. Round everything you have to one significant figure. So the first one, 3 is significant, so the 9 rounds us up to 4,000. And this 2 is significant, so 3 rounds down, so that's just 2. And 1 is significant, 8 rounds it up to 2, so that, be careful, is 20. Now this is where a lot of people round this one to 19. You're just making the question so much harder for yourself. So just round to one significant figure, it should be fine. So let's tidy up. So you should be able to see that you can divide by 10 to both. So how many 4s go into 400? And that would be 100. I will point out at this point, if you accidentally do this, so if you imagine you rounded this to 19, you had two 19s, and that would be 38. If you get to here, there's no problem with you rounding again to one significant figure. So if you rounded this number to one significant figure, you'd then get to here. But just try and do it at the start, it just solves a lot of issues. So 6 is significant, 1 rounds down, 600. 3 is significant, 9 rounds up. And this time, 0 is not significant, so the first significant figure is 5. And that rounds it down, so that's 0.5. So let's tidy up. 6 4s are 24, 3 zeros, and we're dividing that by 0.5. Now, when it's 0.5, that's quite easy because you're actually dividing by a half. So you're saying how many halves go into this number. So let's ignore the zeros for a minute. If I said how many halves are there in 8, you should have 16. How many halves are there in 4? You should have 8. So dividing by a half, how many halves go into something is the same as doubling. So how many halves go into 24? Well, it'll be 48 halves in 24 whole ones. And then your 3 zeros. A lot of people get confused with dividing by halves. The next one's going to be a little bit more challenging. So, to one significant figure, I'm going to speed this bit up now, so it's 10 and 4. But this time, zeros are not significant. 2 is, 1 rounds it down to leave me with 0.02. Now, tidy up. So here's another trick that you can do. I know what I can times by to get here, but if, let's say, for example, it was a 3, it's not so easy. So when it's divided by a decimal, my advice to you is to remove it. So think about what you can times by so the decimal would disappear. And there's lots of options, but it's always easier to use powers of 10. So if I times this by 100, I would actually get 4,000 on the top, and I would get 2 on the bottom. Removing the decimals. Remember, you have to do the same to top and bottom because you're changing the fraction. So 4,000 halved is, of course, 2,000. So if you have a decimal, like here as well, I could have times by 10 and found out how many 5s go into it, but it's easier with a half just to double. If you have a decimal here, just remove it and turn it into integers. There you go. Now, sometimes they don't use division at all. It's just the same. So one significant figure, that obviously is 3. Now again, this is where people make mistakes. One significant figure, that's a significant. 1 rounds down, so this whole number rounds to 10. 10 squared is 100, so 3 times 100 is 300. So they are literally all the different types of estimating or approximating questions. The grade C is when we start to include the decimals in the denominators.